data-first ecosystem driving exceptional, personalized experiences for our customers. We want to be able to unify data across any touch point, any interaction with a customer. We want to be able to coordinate between various channels, devices, touch points, call them what you like. We want to be able to automate that process so that we can actually deliver personalized campaigns on a one-to-one basis that's actually going to change behavior over time. And we can improve outcomes with things like machine learning that can obviously, machine learning powered segments and campaigns to manage each unique customer throughout their journey with your brand. So that's Nirvana. Okay, and so how are brands responding? So they're responding in a number of different ways. We're seeing lots of change and progression in terms of modernizing and automating their suite of technology. Whether that's a retailer or a brand, I think most of us are going through a period of working out what pieces of what does our tech stack need to look like moving forward? What new touch points do we need if we're a physical brand? How do we operate as a digital brand, etc. And a lot of that's obviously driving towards removing friction and creating that seamless omni-channel, that blend, as I talked about, between the physical and digital experiences. A lot of businesses are redistributing labor, maybe away from highly repetitive tasks, and this is happening front of house, back of house if you're a retailer, but maybe also as a brand, directing those resources where it's going to actually direct more benefit for the business. We all want to be lean and agile, so we're removing waste from core operations. Of course, personalizing the customer experience is key, and how we're going to do that. I'm going to talk a lot about that this afternoon. And what's driving that is that centralization of data and core functions. Now having a suite of technology that works together, that different business groups within the organization can access and tap into and leverage in order to build a business. Okay, so this is really the crux of my presentation this afternoon, is really talking about value-led loyalty. So all this change that I talked about, all this technology improvement, I guess this increasing demands from customers, the increasing pressure on businesses, has definitely shifted how we look at loyalty. It's shifted the focus, obviously, more around automation and more around building one-to-one relevancy. So certainly as we move forward, loyalty is about optimizing that contextual exchange between your customer and your brand. So definitely a one-size-fits-all traditional earn and burn sort of program isn't going to cut it in the new world. Brands are going to need to identify and tailor at an individual level. So this means being able to respond to every customer depending upon their relationship stage with you. And it also relies on not just looking at transactions or financial transactions, but also understanding the value that, non-financial transactions has on your business. So can you define what advocacy or what engagement, what actual value is that driving for your business, and start to build that into your value models in terms of how you're looking at different customers. So harnessing that data, obviously from customer, to inform your customer profiles, your segmentation models, and obviously then decision engines. When we tend to engage with brands for the first time, there's a bunch of questions. We ask things like, do you have audience segment views? Can you actually dynamically segment your audience in real time? And then obviously deliver an execution model overlaying those segments, right? So how do you actually value those different customer lifetime value models? Are you looking at that? Is a customer that maybe spends less but engages with you socially just as valuable as a customer who spends a little bit more but doesn't have that level of engagement or advocacy? So this is value-led loyalty. This is the new battleground for loyalty. It's about obviously looking at it in a much more intelligent way, away, I guess, from what you may think of being that sort of traditional kind of loyalty that we sometimes think about. And so just back on that, I think, loyalty in itself is probably not an inadequate term, really for what this whole function is to a business these days. Because to me, loyalty still evokes a sense, I guess, of a very transactional earn and burn type methodology. Whereas really what we're talking about here is, using data and automation to drive a very personal one-to-one engagement with your customers. And I think this is exciting because it's going to see, a lot more growth in marketing. If we think, in loyalty, if we think about what we just went through with COVID, and it was mentioned earlier, right? So customer routines completely flipped on their head. They became probably less predictable, maybe less loyal, maybe more loyal. They certainly fell in love with e-commerce. Forrester found that companies that had great CX were actually able to manage the COVID situation better. And based on a PwC report in 2021, 63% of brands said that loyalty helped them keep customers through COVID. We know what drives good CX. We know what good CX practice looks like in terms of understanding your customers, supporting them, answering their questions, customer care, etc. And so, having the companies that are actively looking at CX and are actively measuring CX are the ones who are going to, continue to prosper, as PwC and Forrester sort of say. So this has changed. I think, that PwC report also found that 72% of businesses are very likely to revamp their loyalty program in the next 12 months. So what does that mean? That means that if your company is not, looking to invest in customers' loyalty, your competitor probably likely is, right? That's a really big number. And on average, about 23% of marketing budget is now allocated to loyalty and CRM. So that's a big change to what I sort of saw 25 years ago, and I'm sure some of you in the room have also seen that. So along with this shift of marketing budget towards more digital than obviously traditional marketing, we're also seeing that in the loyalty and CRM space. There was a conference early this year that I attended virtually, and somebody said, it was a very similar sort of conference, but somebody said that the goal of the marketing industry is to drive interaction. And so I've been thinking about, how do we do that, right? So how do we actually drive interaction with our customers? What is the nature of that interaction? And I guess the answer is that we start by trying to anticipate what they need from us and what's going to engage. Really similarly to, say, a teacher who's teaching a class, who's trying to get that class engaged, getting them to ask questions, getting them to actively participate and learn. That teacher's going to be thinking about, what do these students want to hear? What is most going to resonate with them? So if we extrapolate that to brands, for brands, that driver of anticipation is really around data. How much data can you collect and put towards a single customer view? How well can you know your customers? And then begin to use machine learning to obviously anticipate their next, or predict, when they're going to be open to a particular marketing piece, or when they're going to purchase, or is there an opportunity to get them to purchase more often, etc. So then if we look at the customer journey, which today, as we know, is incredibly complex, definitely not the old linear sales funnel that we looked at many, many years ago. The customer journey is incredibly, diverse, and also, of course, across multiple devices. They're experiencing your brand online, through obviously apps, through mobile, through desktop, through social channels, through advocates, but also obviously through direct channels. And if you have physical touch points, whatever those touch points in store might be, whether it's a point of sale system or a self-checkout or a kiosk, etc., etc. And so, the question really becomes, well, how do you synchronize this? First of all, you're never going to pin the journey down. And actually, to be honest, the permutation of the journey is important, but it's going to be really, really different for every single customer and every single brand out there. So the point is, how do you begin to automate this touch? So how do you begin to understand that you've got customers at all different points along this life cycle journey, and how do you scale and automate that outreach and that engagement with them from the time that they first encounter your brand through to the point that they sign up to your program and you actually know who they are. You can put a name against it, through to different milestones within that journey, whether they've reached new tiers or unlocked various benefits, etc. How do you grow that and how do you do that better? So if we look at the numbers, a stat which sometimes scares people is that the average person is actually a member of 15 loyalty programs. And if you think about your own personal and maybe even professional lives, maybe that number rings true. Maybe it's more. Maybe you're a member of 20 or 30 loyalty programs. The point is, if you asked anyone in the room to name all of those 15, they probably wouldn't be able to tell you. So, with anything that when you're dealing with customers, there's going to be a sense of fatigue. There's going to be loyalty fatigue, right? So that means it's a competitive space. And I guess it also means that signups is really a poor indicator of engagement or success. Better to look at, other measures in terms of active use and engagement, much with your other digital media tactics. We also see customers are really, really fickle, right? And they will suddenly stop being active with you for no apparent reason. And I guess the question is, well, do you know what happened? What happened to that customer that was purchasing, and then one day disappeared and maybe is now an active member with your competitor, right? Do we know what happened? How do we win them back? But when loyalty programs get it right, they provide value for both the brands and customers. So loyalty spenders can spend as much as 3 times more than non-members. Typically 65% of brands' business comes from their membership. And we know that 70% of emotionally loyal customers can spend more than double with the brands that they're loyal to. So cultivating customer relationships has never been more important or complicated, frankly, in today's world. Okay, I want to talk about the role of loyalty. Why do we actually have a loyalty program? And I'm always surprised. It may seem like a really basic question, but the number of times I sort of hear, because my competitor has one, because we kind of felt like that's the thing to do. You're going to have a loyalty program, right? Is staggering the number of times I hear that. I would definitely say to all of you that, before you embark upon having a loyalty program, or even if you've got an existing one and you're looking at how do we take it to that next level, data, right? How are you actually, how is it driving the business? Some brands launched a loyalty program 15 years ago and it's never changed. Same old tiers, same old earn and burn, the whole thing never changes, which to me is ridiculous, right? Because your customers have changed over that time, and so have your competitors, and so has the landscape. So if you're not continually looking at that and going, how am I going to get that person there stuck at level 2 to level 3 or level 4, then you're not actually, you're using it as a blunt instrument, not the sharp instrument that it was potentially intended as. Okay. So the role of loyalty, for me, is fundamentally about behavioral change, right? It's the stick or the cattle prod to get your customers moving in the direction that you want them to move. Now, of course, typically, as I've talked about, this is around, transactions, financial transactions. You want them to spend more, you want them to visit more. But as I also mentioned, there is also that delta. So what other behaviors are you trying to get your customers to stop doing or start doing that, again, is part of your, part of driving value for your business? It might be, for example, you want them to start using a new payment method. You want them to start using a new type of touch point within the store, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure that, a lot of you during COVID had challenges in the business around maybe supply shortages, maybe staff shortages, or something that challenged the business. So my question would be, how many of you used that membership program to maybe navigate through some of those challenges, right? And actually getting people to maybe change their shopping habits to match what was actually happening with the business in terms of supply, demand, et cetera, et cetera. So the bottom line is that, every customer has potential value that you can definitely unlock. But in order to do that, you have to give them the added value that they're looking for in return. It is very much about that value exchange that's going to drive success. I'm going to switch gears a little bit now. I want to talk about psychology because loyalty is deeply etched in psychology, right? So, and one of the leading kind of thoughts around loyalty is around goal psychology, right? Because we're all inherently, as human beings, we're orientated around goal pursuit. And one of the interesting things around goal psychology is what we call the goal gradient effect, which essentially predicts that the closer you get to achieving something, the faster that you're actually going to move. So unlike the snail here, as you feel like you're almost unlocking that new tier or that new privilege or whatever that reward is, you're actually going to move a lot faster and really accelerate, I guess, your shift towards that. So that has two kind of impacts on how you can be running your loyalty program. Firstly, around how you communicate and visualize progress, right? So members want to understand, how much more have I got to go? How much further is that finish line from the snail? They're less concerned with how much I've spent. Obviously, you as the brand want to know, okay, Nick, his lifetime value is $1,000 or $10,000. I, as a customer, are less worried about that. I'm more worried about how many more dollars do I need to spend until I unlock the platinum tier and I get the birthday present, the special massage, the free gift, and the extra, and the gold badge. So a couple of who do this really well, just in some practical kind of examples of this. An obvious one would be, say, Grab, right? So when you order a car or a taxi through Grab, what do? They show you how far away the car is from your pickup point. Again, that's great goal gradient psychology. So it's showing you he's only got this much more to go before he picks you up. Another brand that does it really well, you may not have heard of them, it's called Duolingo. So they're basically a language learning application. They use goal gradient effect really, really well in terms of setting people challenges around learning, new languages, etc., etc. But again, it's goal gradient effect, right? This is how much further you've got. Another example that I'm sure we all know well is LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn always show you progress bars in terms of your profile completion, how your profile matches maybe towards other candidates, etc., etc. So this is all goal gradient psychology. So there we go. We've learned a little bit about psychology today. So the second impact is, how do we communicate with customers about our loyalty program? So if we think about goal gradient effect, distance changes your mindset, right? So when you're far away from a goal, you tend to think about it more abstractly. What do I get at the end? Oh, you win a gold prize. Cool. Okay, I'm on that journey. When you get closer and closer to the finish line, those abstract thinking mindset goes more to a concrete mindset. So then you start thinking, what do I need to do again to actually achieve that gold star? Oh, okay, cool. I just need to spend another $20, $30, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess the takeaways from this is, how are we communicating progress to customers? Are we motivating them to get to the next phase rather than focusing on what they've done in the past? And are we making it easier for customers to visualize that through progress bars, et cetera, et cetera? Obviously, the airline industry does this really, really well. The airline industry are masters at psychology, because you really want to unlock that next tier so that you get access to the business class lounge and you get to go in the special queue and you get more luggage. You get 30 kilos of luggage. They'll always tell you Singapore Airlines do it great, Qantas does it great, a bunch of other airlines around the world do it great in terms of this is how much more you've got to go. And they'll all, may even nudge you. Hey, you're just that little bit further away. This is what you need to do. And they might even chunk it down for you, which is another thing the airlines do it really well. If you flew from here to Bangkok or here to Manila, that's enough for you to unlock that next prize. So they do that psychology incredibly well. I want to talk about value proposition types. So in loyalty, we talk about three main value propositions around loyalty, three main kind of types of loyalty that we talk about. The first one is the most obvious. It's the most common. It's your threshold-based loyalty, right? So this is more traditional earn and burn type program where you can obviously get a reward currency, beans, smiles, badges, points, whatever it is, or cashback, based on obviously spending and based on visiting, etc. So it's the most common in the world. There's a million of these. Some great examples, bad examples, etc., etc. Then we move into paid membership. Now, paid membership again uses psychology, right? Because psychology says that if you pay for something, you have a higher perceived value of it, and therefore you're more likely to use it. So paid membership is where you pay to, it's pay to play, right? You pay for that membership, straight away you unlock value. It might be in the form of better pricing, it might be in the form of free delivery, or some other privilege that you unlock from day one. So you get that instant gratification. Some good examples of paid membership. Amazon Prime is probably the most famous one. Straight away you pay your monthly subscription for your membership to Prime. You get access to Prime TV. You get obviously other benefits through Prime. Another good local example is Challenger, right? So I don't know how many people are members of Challenger Singapore loyalty program, but it's a pay to play, right? So you pay an annual fee or a 6-month fee, and straight away you unlock the member pricing and all those other advantages and privileges. So the psychology, as I mentioned, is you've got skin in the game, right? So you're more prepared, you're more have a higher propensity to engage with it, and it's usually typically successful. Then we have the last one, which is surprise and delight. I think one of the previous speakers was talking about surprising people, and obviously it's a great tactic, right? So to reward somebody with a certain free gift or something that they weren't expecting because they have in the back end of the system fulfilled some criteria. Maybe they've spent a certain amount in a certain amount of time, but it's not part of your published program. It's a special above and beyond part that you've chosen to reward that particular customer. How much time do I have? A little bit. I can't read that. My eyesight's not great. 8 minutes? Is that what it really says? Okay, I'm going to have to speed up. Let's go through because I want to get to the examples, and I know you all want to get to the examples. So this is all simple stuff, right? So the ideal loyalty is obviously a blend. Is a blend of hard benefits and soft benefits. Hard benefits, tangible stuff, points being smiles, economic rewards for doing certain things. Soft benefits are some of those, maybe even the surprise and delight stuff, right? Your status, and everybody, we all love status. We all want to be the gold member or the platinum member because it means I'm important. It means I'm valued by this brand. Early access to exclusive VIP events and all the stuff that you sort of see out there. I guess the right blend is a combination of both. You need to have something published because you need to motivate people to sign up, and you need to have that right, those compelling soft benefits that then make I think people feel warmer and better about the brand. There you go, and that's the ideal value proposition, a nice heart. Right, what do you need to do this? This is what you need to achieve all this, right? I've spoken a lot about personalization and automation and all these buzzwords. What do you actually need? What does a tech stack sort of look like? It's not a tech stack, but what are the technical components, if you like, necessary to actually achieve this nirvana, this marketing nirvana? So first of all, it's going to be an integrated platform, right? It's going to be a platform that can enable multiple data sources for you to be able to centralize that data and then obviously inform, as I mentioned before, your segmentation models, your single customer views, everything like that. The ability for real-time rewards, again, in this one-on-one world, a lag, non-real-time rewards aren't going to cut it for much longer. Customers expect to see, the minute I've finished my shopping mission, I can see it reflected in my balance. Great, my progress bar has moved. I've got a reward straight away that I've ordered through my mobile app, etc., etc. It's also about engaging moments, right? What are those right moments that matter most for your customers? That moment where they feel like they need that sense of gratification or that reward from you as the brand. Machine learning insights, spoken a lot about today. This is where it's really happening, I guess, in terms of training models to learn about customer behavior, and then be able to react in real time at scale without a human hand having to go, oh, is this approved? What should we do? Bang, the message is out, or the action is taken within the platform. Connected experiences, right? That seamlessness and frictionless across multiple devices, etc., which of course is also your digital focus. And I'll talk a little bit about that later as well. Self-serve, I think it was mentioned earlier as well. Brands love self-serve. You've got multiple business units within your organization. You've got your marketing guys, your sales guys, your finance guys, your management. All may play a role, or all may have specific roles and tasks within that self-service platform. So making it easy and attractive to be able to go in there and do all that. Dashboards, visualization is important for customers. It's also important for brands, right? What's our ROI? What's our KPIs? How's that campaign tracking? What do we need to change? How do we optimize it? How do we do it better? And lastly, obviously, your robust reporting for a deeper dive analysis into the numbers, et cetera, et cetera. Sounds like a lot. There's all the bits you need. So there you go. Off we go. And this is how it all works. I don't have time to go through it, but this is your feedback loop, right? So continuing throughout the whole process, as you've got data coming into the platform spitting out, centralized views of customers, driving your segmentation engine, then informing your campaign management, your marketing orchestration to make sure you get your message right time, right place, right person. What's the behavioral impact of that communication? Was it positive? Was it negative? Did it work? Did it drive a sale? Did it drive an outcome? Feeding that back into your ROI model, and of course also back into the whole platform, right? So as we're continually learning, we're continually evolving and getting better and better and better and better. I want to move on to who's doing it well. Right. So what I've done here is I want to talk about a bunch of loyalty programs that I always like to talk about that I think are doing it really, really well. They're from all corners of the globe, and I've kind of grouped them, hopefully in a helpful way, across which ones drive interaction, because that's what we want to do, which are digitally optimized, which ones are driving innovation or using innovation, and then lastly, that emotional connection. Who's doing that emotional connection really well? Who's actually really tapping into their brand and synergizing with customers? I'm going to start with Woolworths Everyday Rewards. Obviously, Australia, it's one of the biggest loyalty membership programs in Australia, about 12.5 million members. They always rate very highly on rewards that resonate. They've got a big range and breadth of coalition partners. You can earn and burn with that range of coalition partners, and they really make it easy for customers or members, I guess, to tailor that membership program to them. Right? Where do I want to earn, and then where do I want to burn that currency? They make it really, really easy. They give people a lot of choice. The next one along, still at the top, is a company called REI. That's Recreation Equipment Incorporated. This is an American outdoor business with about 24.5 million members. They run their loyalty program like a co-op. So essentially, as a member, you are part of the business. You get to make decisions on behalf of the business. 70% of the profits of the business go back into the community. You can participate in voting for the board and all those sorts of things. So that's real customer centricity, right? Really looking at your membership as part of your business, building that community view, et cetera, et cetera. Last but not least, My Panera, huge bread coffee in the States, 40 million members, great example of using goal psychology that we talked about earlier, and the goal gradient effect, right? And the way that they use progress bars, badges, et cetera, to really, drive that effect home for their customers. Let's talk about digital optimization. So Urban Outfitters, another US-based brand, really get that omni-channel blend really, really well. They can reward people for both social as well as physical and digital engagement. Obviously non-transactional type engagements. Excuse me. I've got Sephora on there. I'm sure we all know Sephora. They do really well from a community aspect in terms of how they build advocacy. In terms of what they do around forums, ratings, and how they actually reward participation and advocacy within their community is another great example. I've also got Shell China there, which not everyone knows a lot about. I used to work with these guys, so I know a lot about what they're doing. They're very innovative and very digital first when it comes to their loyalty program shell in China. So one of the things they do, obviously, like a lot of brands in China, is obviously integrated with WeChat Pay. So they've got a really, really funky way, and that payment is attached to a member. So a really good way to build in that payment interoperability into the platform. They did an integration with Baidu Maps, think Google Maps, but in China. When you look up a petrol station, not only does the nearest Shell come up, but it'll also invite you to sign up to that membership program through that map application. And it'll give you an instant reward for doing that. I think I'm out of time. Which one did I want to talk about really quickly? Anyone there? Can anyone see a logo on the screen that they want me to talk about really quickly as the last one? Maybe Chris Shop? No? Starbucks is a great one for innovation. So look, Starbucks have always done a lot of work around gamification and customer centricity. You may have seen Starbucks just announced that they're actually launching a blockchain-enabled and NFT-enabled loyalty program on the Ethereum network. So essentially, being able to purchase NFT-based stamps, as part of being a Starbucks member, and those stamps then unlock a whole bunch of immersive experiences and value, et cetera, et cetera. You got Chris Shop here in Singapore, completely launched on the blockchain, obviously driving identity tokenization, payments, decentralized, et cetera, et cetera. Nike are playing in the NFT space in terms of they've bought a virtual shoe company. They recently sold a pair of shoes for $134,000. That's virtual shoes, not real shoes, for $134,000. The other one I quickly want to mention is Qantas. So this is emotional connection, great example of CSR. So they've launched a whole new green tier as part of their loyalty program. So you can be rewarded not just for flying, but doing green, sustainable things. So whether it's carbon offset your flights, staying in eco-friendly hotels, but also putting solar panels on your roof or buying an eco-friendly car, you will get, rewarded within the Qantas application with status points, bonuses, exclusive events, etc. I did have one more slide, but I think I'm out of time. I'm out of time.
Yep.
You can read up on the screen. This is what I think is next. If anyone has any questions, you can ask me later.